All right, so it is 2024, and most of the companies are struggling with growth, except a few. And Chameleon is one such. They have grown from zero to almost 1,000 customers really, really fast. Jay, who leads it, he wrote a few playbooks in LinkedIn, how they're doing it. And we wanted to know what are they doing differently. So today we are going to break down one such playbook and how Jay actually thinks about it. Okay. So if you're leading a demand gen or growth in B2B company and want to grow really fast with a modest size team, this episode is for you.
Hey, Jay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Could you give us your insights on how do you identify these website visitors who are in your ICP at a person level? There are a lot of tools that do identification at account level, like this Clearbit Reveal and many others in the market now. So how do you go about identifying at a person level in this space?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I don't know the secret sauce behind the software. There's a company called retention.com that used to do this in the e-commerce space, and they decided to build a B2B offering. It came out maybe 5-6 months ago, I would say. And they took LinkedIn by storm. Everybody in Go To Market was talking about it. It was free at the beginning, and they were expecting to be able to monetize with ICP fit filtering and integrations to CRM. And it turns out people figured out how to leverage their Slack feed using Zapier and sending the data to CRM, like I can explain that we do at Chameleon. So they started charging for their service. And I guess my friends at vector.co, who are also working on a new startup in go-to-market technology, saw an opportunity to rebuild what our B2B had built. And they launched a free offering a couple of weeks ago. They'll be monetizing some other functionality in the future. But their visitor level identification is completely free. We started just feeding that to the sales reps with our B2B a few months ago, and our alerts channel just started getting super, super busy. And the majority of the people visiting our website were not ICP. We didn't want to talk to them. Interns, people from small companies, teachers. So yeah. I started feeding the Slack thread into Zapier, and then sending a GET request to HubSpot to get the company information. So it's essentially taking the Slack message, parsing the URL of the company using a regex expression. That way we can send the clean domain over to HubSpot as a GET request, and HubSpot sends back all the company properties so we can determine if they're ICP fit or not. And then if they're ICP fit, we route it to another Slack channel that has a curated feed essentially of ICP fit prospects that are on the website.
We'll link to the resource in footnotes of this episode, like how exactly you have used all the regex you have written to clean the data, as well as connecting to HubSpot. So
Great.
Yeah, guys, you can check out that resource. It's like a very quick 3-minute video that can get you into the weeds of how you can build this setup.
No.
Yeah, building on top of that, once you have this data in and you are sending relevant alerts to the sales folks, what happens next? We are curious to learn how sales is leveraging this data. So if you could shed some light on that.
What's working well is just a very simple approach for person level identification. When the sales reps get an alert, they go to LinkedIn and they send them a blank connection request. And the acceptance rate is very, very high. I would say probably 75 to 80%. And then once the contacts accepted the connection rate, we try to follow up with relevant materials to the web pages that we saw they were visiting. So, for example, if they're on a specific feature page, we might explain to them why that feature is more advanced than one of our competitors. If they're on a competitive alternative page, we'll talk about our competitive differentiators and why we've seen other companies switch to Chameleon from them. If they're on our pricing page, we'll just basically position ourselves as a resource to answer any questions. Our pricing might be complicated. Let me help you figure out how much this is going to cost you. And We have templates for business cases and evaluation matrix, and really just trying to bring them value as much as possible throughout the nurture sequence. So it's really very simple, very straightforward. Just trying to like mention that we know that they're looking into a specific area of our platform, and that we're there to help them, and we have materials that we can send them, whether they want to talk to us or not. If they want to self-serve their evaluation, we have templates that can help them think of the right things they should be evaluating, think of the right integrations they should be thinking of, how they're going to analyze the results of their in-app experiences, and how they're going to be able to iterate long term and compound on their results.
Wonderful. Look, I that's really informative, Jay, and the whole idea of nurturing people with relevant, personalized content, things that they are looking at, makes the connection even stronger. One thing that, the person who has visited your website and you are reaching out to them directly, maybe LinkedIn, maybe email, sometimes that could creep people out. Hey, how do you know I was checking you out, right? So what are, so if there's any recommendation on how to start the conversation with these people, that would be awesome.
That's a great question. I think like we're lucky to be selling to product managers in the technology space. So I think a lot of people understand that there's a lot of things happening under the hood that drive personalization. Like for example, if you go to our website, chameleon.io, the interactive demo that's in the header is going to adapt to your company. The colors of the UI and the logo is going to change because we identify that you're from your company using Clearbit, Reveal. Then we send an API call to a tool called Brand Fetch that pulls your company colors, your logo, and we just input that into a dynamic, like interactive demo. And people were asking a lot of questions about that. Like they were posting us on LinkedIn and like, hey, Chameleon's using our branding and our logo without our authorization. So we had to explain how this was being done, and we added a little bit of text now on top of the interactive demo saying like, we're not showing your brand to other companies. This is like personalization to you. So I think it's similar with the person level identification. I think that's why the blank LinkedIn Connect request works better than sending him a tailored message saying, hey, I saw you were just on our pricing page. Maybe some people get creeped out by it and they know they're going to be sold to, they don't accept it. Whereas a blank connection request, like I was just on the Chameleon website and Jay from Chameleon just connected with me. What are the coincidences? This must be meant to be, I'll accept it, or I'm curious because I'm already engaged with the brand. And then we get in with the personalization, like, hey, I saw somebody from your company was on our website. We typically tell them we use technology to identify companies and people that are on our website, and I saw you might need help with pricing. And we haven't had any pushback. People are actually impressed quite often. Like, wow, I was on your website and you're reaching out to me at the exact moment that I'm there. That's pretty impressive. What technology you use? Maybe I'll suggest it to our RevOps team, and we'll try to implement it at our company.
Yeah, being upfront about it, I think the best defense is transparency.
All right. So, Jay, do you want to talk about how the entire alerting stack work? Like, what are the modules you guys are using, and how all of them kind of get stitched up?
I'll talk about what we use at Chameleon, but this is interchangeable. Like we use Clearbit to reveal companies that are visiting our website using technology called reverse IP lookup. But you can use 6sense, you can use ZoomInfo. There's a lot of other platforms that do company level identification. So that's identifying companies that visit our website, and you can build lists or alerts for specific pages. So we're only sending high intent page visits to our CRM through Clearbit. So people visiting the features pages, the pricing pages, engaging with interactive demos, looking at competitive alternative pages. But if you come read a blog, we're not going to send an alert to sales. Our goal there is to get you into our marketing opt-in funnel and nurture you with educational and inspirational content. So Clearbit for what I called first-party identification, thumbs up. G2 for third-party intent. We've actually discovered that a lot of our customers and our prospects find out about Chameleon through G2, looking at alternatives to our competitors, or just looking at solutions in the digital adoption category. Both of these are fed into HubSpot through native integrations. What else am I missing? Vector.co for person level identification. And I also leverage a little bit of intent signals in Apollo. I consider like a job change of a decision maker being an interesting intent signal. New decision maker that comes into role at an ICP company is typically a good trigger to reach out. New product launches, expansion in the product org or in the customer success organization or in their support org is typically a good sign that they're looking for efficiencies in that area. And then we leverage HubSpot workflows to kind of parse all of these intent signals and identify which ones we want to send alerts to the sales team, which ones we want to nurture automatically, and which ones we just want to store a history of and not send alerts for. So all of these intent signals are actually being stored as a custom object in HubSpot that we've called intent signals on the company level. So our reps can go in and see a history of their user journey, essentially, when a company spikes for intent again, and then they can reference previous intent. Like, I saw that you were looking at alternatives to app queues on G2 6 months ago. Then you came to our website and you played around with our embeddables interactive demo. So you're probably interested in like embedding experiences in your UI, and here's why Chameleon's embeddables feature is very unique. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in this stack. Slack, obviously, we try to centralize all of the alerts to Slack. All of those come from HubSpot. So you can click on the Slack message, go to the CRM record and action it. And I'm forgetting Apollo. Apollo's very crucial in the stack as well to prospect the individuals. Like vector.co might say, you're on our website, but I don't get your email address, so I need to provision that through Apollo. And we also do a lot of our intent-based or warm nurture sequencing through Apollo. When a company spikes for intent for the first time, we run them through an automated playbook. We have a bunch of filters to make sure they're not a customer, they haven't been disqualified before, and they're ICP. And then I set up a playbook in Apollo that automatically prospects 5 people in the buying committee and puts them in the sequence that's relevant to the intent signal that they spiked for.
Jay, I have a follow-up question, which is, once you get all these signals, after that you build a company profile, like all the information about the company using different data providers. Do you guys use some sort of a scoring model after that? That, okay, with these attributes, this is a very high intent or high fit company. This is a low fit company. And if so, where does that model stay? Is it in the HubSpot custom object? We
do use a lead scoring methodology. Yeah. It's very rudimentary. It's a calculated field on the company level in HubSpot. And it's a very simple rules-based system. We looked into machine learning-based lead scoring solutions, and we felt like our current solution is working well for us. Probably invest in something more robust in the future. But it's essentially looking at the intensity of the intent signal. Like if you're on G2 looking at the category in the consideration stage versus looking at an alternative to one of our competitors in the decision stage, the scores will be very different. If you're coming to our website versus looking at our pricing page or security page, for example, the scoring will be much greater if you're looking at security or pricing, because you're more likely currently in evaluation or in the decision phase. And then we look at the recency of the signal as well. It's a basic score object or property. And like an example of one of the scores would be like visited our G2 profile in the decision phase in the last 3 days. That's 30 points. And then if that same signal is between 3 and 7 days old, it goes down to 20 points. If it's 7 to 14 days old, it goes down to 10 points. So all of these intent signals kind of sum up together or combine. And this allows us to identify when there's intent signals coming from multiple channels at the same time. There's like a concentrated effort, try to find a solution in the space. And once the intent score hits a certain threshold, that gets routed to a rep for manual and personalized outreach, where we're going to take a bit more of an ABM approach, try to identify, try to build out the org chart and reach out to different stakeholders, typically reference the interactions that we're having with the other stakeholders, try to get everybody together in a room to have a discussion with us.
All right. This is insanely insightful, which brings me to the next question. Okay. Whenever demand gen manager, head of demand gens hears this sort of sophisticated playbook, the first question that comes is, how many resources, how many people you have in your team to implement that? Or it can be used by smart Zapier integrations and so on and so forth. Maybe you request a dev for 2 days and then they can build the stack. So if you can talk us a little bit about the operationalization part, because that's where everybody is like, okay, how much will it cost?
Absolutely. It's actually more simple than you think. If you're resourceful and you know your way around tools like, well, HubSpot and the workflows, especially if you can do, Clay would be a great example of a tool that you can leverage to do this. I've also been using Copy AI to do company level research and get a whole bunch of talking points that are highly personalized to their customer base, their product, and the value propositions that we can provide around their challenges and their goals. But to answer your question directly, I built all of this myself. And on a part-time basis, as head of growth at Chameleon, I wear a lot of hats, including analytics, data piping, PLG, all of our self-serve motion, experimenting with Chameleon on Chameleon, building email onboarding flows for our self-serve motion, list building for the sales team, target account assignments, territory building, quotas. So a lot of things outside of like operational demand gen. And like the plays that I'm talking about now, like Vector released their person level identification last week, and in an hour and a half, I built the Zap that would parse their Slack feed, check for ICP, send alerts to the sales reps. I guess the entire workflow combining all the intent sources was an iterative process that maybe we put into place over the course of a few weeks. But each individual play, like plugging in Clearbit to HubSpot and building workflows that store the intent signal when it's high intent, it's probably something you can get done in half a day.
Okay, I have a question. So this is more for the community. So not everybody would be this resourceful. Okay, so I still feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if somebody doesn't need a huge RevOps or marketing ops team, okay, they can be smart about it. They can commission a project with some sort of a growth expert or automation expert, tell him or her the requirement, and maybe it could be a 2 weeks project, 1 week project, and you get the basic setup done. And that person can be like there for like as a consultant in case something breaks down. So it's not like you need
Agreed.
like a 10 people RevOps team and so on, which is like huge, right? I mean, this can be done in a lean way, is what I think.
I agree 100%. I'm actually starting a RevOps consulting agency, and that's one of the project-based offerings that I'll be offering. So for a couple $1,000s, you can hire me and my team, and we can put this all in place for you if you're using HubSpot.
So, Jay, we have covered the playbook. What is it? How it's to be built. You have gone into the weeds of it. I think to close out the playbook and make it wholesome, one thing that everybody might be thinking is, okay, what are the results? So if you could shed some lights on what kind of results are you seeing with this particular playbook of identifying people, ICP website visitors on a personal level, and then reaching out, doing a personalized outreach with sales.
I mean, we're booking a lot more meetings on a percentage basis. If you look at turnover rate from outreach to meeting booked with ICP company, it's like a 4x increase versus doing cold outreach. When I joined the company, we were using an agency to do cold outbound, and it was kind of a spray and pray approach, like enroll 4,000 to 5,000 people every week into an email sequence and try to get a meeting booked with them. Our turnover rates were probably at the half a percentage point, about 0.5% of people being emailed were resulting in a meeting booked, and the meeting booked to close one ratio was not great either. You're reaching out to somebody cold; they're not necessarily in market at that time. You haven't really qualified the company. They're in our ICP in terms of employee count, and they're a tech company. But is their pricing conducive to leveraging Chameleon? If they drive a 10% increase in free to pay conversion, does that bring them ROI on their spend on our software? Is it the right decision maker? Who are they using as an incumbent so we can talk to the differentiators? It's all this stuff that we weren't able to identify and personalize our messaging to. So that's from a person level identification, and we're just getting started. Like we used our B2B for a couple of weeks when it was free a few months ago. They changed their offering. We stopped doing person level identification, and we just restarted again a week ago with vector.co. So I think there's also going to be a long-term impact here as well. What we've seen using multi-step attribution, we use Dream Data for that at Chameleon, is B2B buying journeys are very, very, very long cycles with a lot of touch points, especially as you get higher up in the market, as you get closer to like large mid-market and enterprise companies. We've seen deal cycles of like 18 months with hundreds of touch points across multiple personas in the organization. So this nurture of person level identification, if it's really well done, can really, I guess, make a mark on the prospect and ensure that they remember you when they are ready to start evaluating solutions, when their contract is up with their incumbent and and they want to explore alternatives at renewal.
On that note, I think we'll close on and conclude on this playbook. Thanks a lot, Jay, for sharing your insights and how this playbook works.